We're going to be talking about something that I'm not real proud of about our national history today, but also there's one aspect to it that I discovered a couple days ago that I was. So, and Catherine was talking about where we are as a community and where our kids are and how we got there. It didn't happen overnight, and so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. Basically, it goes back to one woman. For the last, well, until recently, Planned Parenthood has had rather a good image in our communities across the nation. Kind of, the word parenthood is in its title, so people don't know a lot about it because most of their clinics and outreach has been in urban areas and in poor areas. So across America, it's had kind of a benign image as an organization. But recently, I don't know if anyone here has seen some of the videos that have been put out on YouTube. Has anyone seen those? Yeah. Okay, well, some people have called Planned Parenthood or gone to visit them, planning to tape conversations. And as they did that and put them up on YouTube, their image has become severely tarnished, so they're kind of on the defensive now. People would call and catch people on tape, on videotape, audio tape, abetting, the counselors at Planned Parenthood would be abetting underage abortion, underage prostitution. They'd be endorsing racism. They would be encouraging minors to lie about their age. They would be lying to their clients about fetal development so that they would go ahead and have an abortion because they didn't know the details of what was happening within them. So this has definitely tarnished their image. And they've also shown that Planned Parenthood is all about money. Last year there was a clinic manager who defected to the pro-life cause because she watched an ultrasound and abortion being done. And it just tore her apart. And so she's been revealing how Planned Parenthood, it's all about money. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Where did Planned Parenthood come from? It's basically the work of one single woman. And the founder of Planned Parenthood's name is Margaret Sanger. She lived in the early 1900s, and she basically was quite a character. She undertook to do nothing less than change American civilization. At that time that she began her mission, America was basically pro-life because of the work of a pro-life movement 50 years prior. It began right after the Civil War when abortion was pretty prominent. I didn't even know that. But there was a strong pro-life movement, and around 1875, Congress and the President signed into law the Comstock Laws, which made contraceptives illegal. These laws strengthened marriage, they reduced prostitution, they just basically transformed the country. That's what Margaret Sanger set about to change. Okay, so we're going to try the PowerPoint. I'm not doing this right. Let me see it. I think I got to come down here. Okay, that's a Margaret Sanger quote. She said, "The marriage bed is the most degenerating influence of the social order. It's a decadent institution." Margaret Sanger was married. She was married twice, in fact. Her first marriage, she had 3 children, and she basically neglected all of them, and she left her husband. Then she married a very wealthy man, and had a contract when she married saying, okay, I'm going to be free to do whatever I want, and if you want to have dinner with me, call me and make an appointment. I'm going to be with other people and go in and out as I please, and she did. She had many illicit affairs. She was really not a good person. She basically wanted all women to be as free as she was. She thought that meant women were empowered if they could go out and have affairs and sex whenever they wanted to without having children, because they could use contraceptives. To her, that was empowering women. To most of us here, we call it something else. Not empowering women. All right. Whoops, I went backwards and forwards. Okay. Margaret Sanger rejected God when she was about 17 years old. Her father was a socialist, communist, atheist, person, and he basically destroyed what faith she had had as a child. And so she became a social revolutionary. She was friends with all the big names of the early 20th century, and she set out to change the social order. But she said, if the socialist revolution is going to come, first there has to be a sexual revolution. All right, so she started the birth control review. And one of the quotes, we'll be looking at some more, was, "The kindest thing a large family can do to its youngest child is to kill it." Okay, so this is what Margaret Sanger was all about. And she started the American Birth Control League to foster these ideas and to start to spread them. And that became Planned Parenthood in 1942. All right, she wrote a magazine called The Rebel Woman, and the subhead was, "No Gods, No Masters. I'm free and autonomous." All right, she thought large families were a waste of women's lives and of their health. Her own mother had died in her 40s. Margaret was the 6th of 11 children, so she kind of had that in mind, I think. She said, "Everywhere we see poverty and large families going hand in hand. Those least fit carry on the race are increasing most rapidly, those who never should have been born." Just kind of shocks you, doesn't it? All right, and she thought, anyone, no matter how ignorant or how diseased, seemed to consider he or she had the right to become a parent. Okay, so since when is becoming a parent a right? All right, and she connected poverty with, well, genetically, you were genetically defective possibly if you were poor. They kind of went together. So to her, that was a bad thing. It was almost like a disease. And so you wanted fewer poor people. So you wanted them not to reproduce, but then they were the ones that reproduced more than the wealthy. So she looked at poor Southern whites, poor Negroes, and poor Slavs and Italians as genetically probably defective. And if this gives you the idea that she thinks they shouldn't reproduce or calls to mind the term eugenics, you're right. All right, one of her sayings was, children should be begotten only if they're going to be able to live in a healthy environment. Well, if you think about that, who gets to say what a healthy environment is and who's healthy and who's not? It's not good. And foolishly, in my view, she put a lot of her thoughts into writing the birth review, the birth control review. 1919, more children from the fit, less from the unfit. 1921, the whole purpose of birth control is to create a race of thoroughbreds. Does this call to mind the 1930s and the Nazis? Yes, it does. She was friends with some of their friends. Okay, 1932, couples should be required to submit applications to have a child. So the shock keeps going on, doesn't it? All right, in 1939, she started something called the Negro Project. Planned Parenthood has racist roots. And her idea was that you wanted to go into the black community and get them to reproduce less. They were reproducing more than the wealthy and more than the elites. So in order to do that, their most trusted people were their ministers. So she said, hire 3 or 4 black ministers who have a charismatic personality, have some background in social work, and go into those communities and convince them that they need to have fewer children because then they'll be healthier and they'll better themselves economically. But she wrote in writing, putting these things in writing was amazing. We don't want them to get they're going to be suspicious that we want to exterminate the race. So we want these ministers to go in there to take care of that idea and disperse it. All right. Eugenics movement caused a backlash after World War II because of the Holocaust and the superior race type rhetoric that had been prominent in Margaret's publications. So what they did was change the name of the American Birth Control League to Planned Parenthood. Very benign, very sweet. And they used nice family type rhetoric to continue selling to the American people. Their goal was to make contraceptives universally acceptable and to limit U.S. population growth overall. They became interested in population growth worldwide even. Okay, by the 1970s, Margaret had died in 1966. President of Planned Parenthood carried on the tradition and her thoughts and her thinking. She said that we have not abandoned our original goals. All right, we're not going to be an organization that advocates for celibacy or chastity. Okay, and in Canada, the president said, most of us would rather catch syphilis than tuberculosis. The idea is to get people sexually active like Margaret was, in any way, shape, or form, at any time, however they wanted it. And I want to read you the rest of that quote.